Here we are, 7 months into this pandemic, and I can't even begin to describe the roller coaster of emotions I've gone through these past few months, as I'm sure most of you have. I felt anxious, depressed, sad, confused, overwhelmed, stressed, but I've also felt happy, at peace, inspired, passionate, compassionate, and hopeful. As COVID-19 has forced us all into isolation, I was left with no choice but to learn how to navigate life through these times. And though I've had my fair share of breakdowns and lonely days, I also saw the beauty and joy in the simplest things. I definitely wouldn't go as far as to say that it had to take a whole last pandemic for us to finally slow down and be present. But I am proud of myself for learning to let go of things I cannot control, be patient with myself, and for always trying and putting one foot in front of the other, day by day, no matter how bleak or dreadful the coming days seem to be. Number 1. Weekly grocery runs. In the early months of this pandemic, going to the grocery felt apocalyptic. People were hoarding food, sanitary items, tissue paper, and there was always a long line at the entrance. It used to give me so much anxiety because it was something that we were only ever supposed to see in movies, not something that we would actually experience in this lifetime. But as people learned how to take precaution and adapt to these strange times, it gave me such relief when going to the grocery started to feel somewhat normal again. Minus the face masks, of course. Now, going to the grocery has become so therapeutic for me. Most of the time, it's the only exposure I get to the outside world. So it's nice to see people going about their day, greeting store employees, and clinging on to that small bit of normalcy left from pre-corona times. Going to the grocery brings back scary memories of when we've only started to realize the gravity of this pandemic. But it's also a nice reminder of how far we've come and how every day we are one day closer to finding a cure and going back to the way life used to be. Of course, thanks to all the researchers, scientists, and frontliners. You are all heroes. Number 2. Working out and eating healthy. I started working out December of 2019, and I'm not gonna lie and say that I didn't do it to lose weight or look even half as good as those Instagram models. Because let's admit it, the societal pressure to reach unattainable standards of beauty sometimes just gets to us, and that's not our fault. But as I stayed consistent with my workouts, I started to value my body more, not for the satisfaction that it can give me when people tell me that I've lost weight, but for keeping me alive and making me feel stronger. I'm amazed by what my body can do, and I appreciate the life that it's able to give me, and I want to make sure that I'm giving that love back to my body. I was able to increase my endurance, and I can now do longer and harder workouts. That makes me feel proud of myself. Looking good is just a bonus. And along with working out, I took care of myself by eating healthy and balanced meals. I lessened my meat intake, which I also wanted to do for the environment, and I'd started eating food with more nutrients. But I think it's also important to say that I don't restrict myself. I crave for chips, ice cream, and many other not so healthy food, and I let myself eat them. Because frankly, life is too short not to enjoy food. Food is one of the greatest simple pleasures of life. It's like that scene from Eat, Pray, Love where Julia Roberts was eating her Italian spaghetti with Mozart playing in the background. You can't always associate food with guilt. Food is there for our pleasure, so learn to enjoy it while you still can. Number 3. Journaling and meditation. This quarantine, I think I've been in touch with my higher self and my spirituality more than I've ever had in my entire life. And this is just the beginning of that journey. I remember writing my first journal entry in a very long time when I was at the airport in Shanghai on my way back to the Philippines, after the pandemic had just broke out in China. That memory still remains so vivid to me. Not long after, I started to write weekly gratitudes, weekly affirmations, monthly reflections, any quote that left me feeling inspired or hopeful about life, I wrote them all down. And on tougher days where I just felt too scared to even think about the future or what's going on around me, I'd grab my notebook and just write. And now that there are only 3 months left before this year ends, I'm glad that I not only have these journal entries to look back on, but that I also genuinely got to know myself better. And I learned how to make the conscious decision to be patient with myself, allow myself to process and feel things, but to also learn when to let go and live in the present. And meditating has been that other thing that's been keeping me grounded and centered, pulling me back from all my anxieties and telling me to breathe and to just be. Number 4. Works of art. I've never had this much free time in my life. Literally. I think I was even busier in kindergarten juggling school, kumon, and ballet lessons. So after feeling pretty horrible about not being productive in the standards of our capitalist society, I decided to just say, fuck it, and enjoy the things that I love, such as film, music, TV shows, books, podcasts, and yes, even YouTube. I've consumed so much content these past few months, but the thing is, I didn't do it mindlessly. I immersed myself in them and learned so much from every film and TV show, felt every goddamn emotion from listening to Billy Joel's songs to rediscovering the Beatles, seeing the world through an author's eyes, and feeling inspired by YouTubers like Best Dress Ashley. The truth is, there is so much raw emotion and genuine human connection to be found in storytelling and creating these works of art. I am profoundly impressed by these authors, filmmakers, actors, content creators, musicians, and songwriters, and can only ever hope to be half as great as them. Number 5. Bommy. Shortly after we got a dog, I went away to study abroad, so it was my sister who took care of Bommy and saw him grow up. I was supposed to spend another semester in Shanghai, which meant that I would be away from him again, but obviously that's not what happened. And for months, that was the thing that I really held on to. I couldn't make sense of anything that was going on at that time, and so I found comfort in the fact that because I had to stay home, I got to be with him and be his mom. And as we all quarantined at home, I got to spend so much time with him. He made me feel love, companionship, and peace at a time where everything just felt dark and confusing. I think it's the kind of bond that you'll never really understand unless you yourself experience it. So if you don't have a dog but you've been wanting to get one, please do it. Just do it. You won't regret it, I promise. This year has brought us so much pain and heartache. It isolated us from our communities, friends, and families. It took some people away from us way too soon. It made us go through unimaginable circumstances, whether it was a fight against illness, climate change, or systemic oppression. I think it's safe to say that we've all had our fair share of rough days, yet here we are, still trying to move forward. I know this video is about enjoying the simple pleasures one can experience amid life in quarantine, but it is also, in some sense, a message of hope. And with that, I wanted to read you a message by Heidi Priebe on choosing our struggles. The realization that we are choosing our struggles, however daunting, however painful, however aggravating they may be, opens up a renewed sense of appreciation. We don't get the option to not struggle, but we do get the option to struggle in the direction of what we love, what we can imagine for ourselves, and what we will patiently sit down to untangle again and again and again, not out of frustration, but out of undying commitment to something better. The struggles we wholeheartedly commit ourselves to are the greatest things, the most incredible things we have in this life to be grateful for. So what are you choosing?